microphones. I did theater in high school, and so I learned to enunciate to the back row, so I'm really not very good with microphones. Welcome to the Social Democratic Caucus debate for the state Senate seat in the Plymouth and Norfolk District. My name is Alice Arena, and I'm the chair of the Social Democratic Caucus. The Social Democratic Caucus is comprised of the 8 towns in the Plymouth and Norfolk District, from Duxbury to Norwell to Weymouth and all the towns in between. I'm going to apologize right up front. Obviously, I have a cold, and if I'm unable to fulfill my duties as moderator, I have to back me up Kevin Butler from Scituate or Ellen Whalen from Hingham. So if I have to tap out, that is why. Tonight we have 2 qualified and exciting candidates to hear from: Paul Annan from Hingham and Joe Rustino from Hull. The format of the debate will be as follows. Each candidate is allowed a 2-minute introduction. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes to answer the question and a 1-minute rebuttal or clarification. At the end of the question, each candidate will give a 3-minute speech to end up the debate. Time limits will be strictly adhered to. Carlos Silva of Hingham is our timekeeper. When Carlos holds up the yellow paper, you have 30 seconds left. When he holds up the red paper, you must stop. We did a coin toss to see who would give the first answer, and Joe Rustino won. We will follow through, allow us Paul Annan to answer the second question first, and so on like that. We hope that you find the evening informative, and we should have enough time at the end for you to mingle with the candidates. Thank you for joining us. Let's begin with candidate introduction.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you so much to the Social Democratic Committee. I was very pleased and excited to see that you came together to have us here to talk about issues and to introduce ourselves. So thank you. I am very excited to be running for the state Senate. I have the experience, I have the relationships, I have the perspective on our district, and I have the commitment to be the advocate, the voice on Beacon Hills for the South Shore. I feel that between my experience as a local elected, I was selectman in Hull for a number of years, and my experience as a social justice advocate, I run a nonprofit, I feel that I am uniquely qualified to work with people like yourselves, civic leaders, commercial leaders, municipal leaders, to tackle the issues that are important to us on the South Shore. My husband and I live in Hull. In fact, I was born and raised there, and I have lived most of my adult life in the district, so I really do understand the issues that are important to all of us, because this is where I'm from, and this is where I've been most engaged in the community. As I said, public service has always been something very important to me and my family, and in fact, I was a selectman for 60 years. Since that time, I have continued to represent Hull on a regional level, on the board of our Regional Planning Association and through the MBTA Advisory Board and the Metropolitan Beaches Commission. I am a social justice advocate. I am a lawyer. I've been fighting for progressive causes. I would be delighted to and honored to represent our district, and I look forward to discussing the issues through the debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Thank the Social Democratic Caucus and all of you for coming tonight and allowing us to participate in this debate. This is great. This is hopefully people get to see some things about us in terms of, I know one of the folks I spoke to tonight was talking about differences and so forth. Well, one of the things just briefly about me is I'm married. My wife's name is Susan. We live in Hingham, and we have 2 beautiful daughters. One of them is at Providence College as a freshman, and one of them is a junior in high school at Hingham High School. Before I go any further, though, I just would like to ask you all, not only here today, but also at home, to keep in your prayers and your thoughts the family of Trooper Thomas Claudio, who was buried today serving this Commonwealth and died in line of duty. But I also wanted to keep in your thoughts and prayers the folks that are in Brussels, the people that families of those that were killed and the people that were injured in this senseless act of terrorism that we have to face, unfortunately, all too often. But I'm running for the office. I'm very excited about it. I'll tell you that it's something I've been doing most of my life. I'm running for the office because I want to make sure that people have equal opportunities to succeed in Massachusetts. And I'm running for this office because I want people to be treated fairly, which doesn't always happen, unfortunately. And I'm running for this office because I want to be able to speak for the people that are most vulnerable, the people who can't speak for themselves. And for too long in this district, we've been handicapped without a senator who's able to work with the other elected officials to get things done. For too long, this district's been neglected. When I travel the district and I hear what people have to say, don't forget us. We haven't seen anybody in a while. Well, I guarantee you that I will be there. That's the type of work I'm going to do. I spent 8 months working with the other elected officials, building relationships that will serve this district. Thank you.
What is your position on listing the charter school cap and why?
Oh, I absolutely oppose lifting the charter school cap. Oh, sorry. It doesn't pull closer to me. I'm sorry. Is that better? A little bit better? Just to repeat, I absolutely oppose lifting the charter school cap. I am a strong advocate of public school education, and I think that we should be, in fact, investing more in our traditional public schools, in particular around early education. Unfortunately, charter schools, I feel, waste away our existing resources, so you lose not only the money that follows the child, but diversity of your student body by the children that go, and as well as the parents, who are engaged parents. So I absolutely positively oppose that.
Thank you. And I also oppose the cap. As you understand that I have a daughter in the public schools, and my other daughter who graduated also spent virtually all of her time in the public schools. And as a member of the school committee, I was able to see firsthand all the good things that in my town, and I'm sure in every other town, that the school department does, and the men and women who work as teachers were able to accomplish. I will tell you that one good thing is I have a history of supporting working men and women, especially unions, and I've sat down with them, and the teachers and other union officials, and I saw the inequalities of these charter school proposals that are out there, and it was through my discussions with them that I became understood the need for the cap, and I would fully support it.
Okay. Shall we have 1 minute to clarify or move on?
I disagree on this one. I think that there's no better gift that you can give to children than to start them off right with a solid public education. And I think that is about community, and I think it's about how we support our children. So I really don't have much to add other than my father was a teacher, my mother was an elementary school nurse. All 4 of us went through public schools, so it certainly, to me, it's so much more than just education. It's also about how we support our children in our communities and start them off to be like learners, which I also strongly support libraries as well throughout the whole duration of our educational process throughout our whole life.
Just briefly. And I think I may have said it, but my priority has always been about the community and the children that go to those schools. That's really my first concern. But I will tell you that very clearly that people that have their livelihoods, union working men and women that are teachers, depend on the legislatures to make sure that we protect their interests as well. And I've had a history of doing that when I was a state representative in the Massachusetts legislature, so that's not going to change.
Okay, Paul, this is your question. 2 minutes. Planned Parenthood has been under attack across the nation and has been defunded in 8 states to date. If this battle comes to Massachusetts, how would you respond and why?
My understanding is at this point in time that Planned Parenthood is a accepted method, at least in this part of the country. I can't speak for myself. So I don't have any plan or any desire to cut funding for them. If that's something that's being done at the federal level, it wouldn't necessarily involve me, but I know clearly see they serve a purpose in this Commonwealth, in our community, so I'll be supportive of that.
Thank you. Jones?
I fully support Planned Parenthood. In fact, I've been endorsed by them. I completely support a woman's ability to make her own medical decisions, and I would go so far as to say we have an obligation as well to make sure that we have access that's affordable, quality medical care for everyone. I would totally support continued funding for Planned Parenthood. In fact, I think people don't really appreciate the scope of everything that they do, and they provide a tremendous healthcare service, both to men and to women. So I'd absolutely support them and continue funding.
Thank you. You have 1 minute to clarify on that. Jones?
Okay. Thank you.
So this is Jones. What do you feel are the greatest economic issues facing the district and how to address them? Some examples might be fisheries, self-fields, or business opportunities.
So I actually think one of the big challenges that I'd like to start working on and that our district faces is how to support business and economic development. We're never going to get the GEs of the world here, so I think the challenge is how to invest in our communities now through regional planning and to make our communities welcoming to small businesses and to moderate-sized businesses. We have some wonderful examples. You mentioned fisheries. In fact, my father is a retired lobsterman. He's a teacher. Now he's a retired lobsterman, and my brother still fishes. It's a robust, tremendous business, and I think that there's a lot of things that we can be doing. For example, the South Shore Chamber just did a wonderful study looking at trends and demographic changes and the needs of our community, and I would look forward to working with the South Shore Chamber on a local and on a state level to put the kinds of things in place, whether that be zoning or planning. I think traffic is another one that we have to start tackling, and so these are the kinds of issues that I think we need to be looking at both at the municipal and at the state level to make changes so that businesses are supported and welcomed here. In addition to the things that we should be doing legislatively relative to making that sense of place and making that be a place where people want to invest. I think the other thing we have to start thinking about is equal pay and making sure that everybody has a living wage.
Thank you. In terms of promoting business and the issues that affect us, I've been working really since I became involved in public service in Hingham with committees that have been looking at the Derby Street corridor and areas down there in terms of development. And it's a balancing act, really. It's a balancing act between the bringing business in and development, and also what the needs of the neighbors are. And I happen to be a South Hingham resident, so I've always been sensitive to the concerns of folks in South Hingham. So we're already doing that. We have a committee in place now that's studying, trying to bring businesses in, trying to improve the infrastructure. And we've done some great things, not only in Derby Street, but the Bristol property, and also the industrial park, where we've got some hospitals and other businesses moving in. So we've been working on it for a number of years. I will tell you that in terms of other businesses, there are many other businesses that are already in place that need our help. I've met with some fishermen down in the South Shore in the Marshfield, Duxbury area. And, the more I talked and the more I learned about the problems they face in the bureaucracy and the regulations that basically put their living and way of living at risk, is something that may be a federal issue, but I would commit myself to working with Congressman Lynch and Keating to try to protect those folks, because they have been here a long time. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, and we need to do more to help them.
So, 1 minute clarification.
No, I agree, and I think there are other things that I would just mention is that we do have a lot of opportunity here. I think this is the South Shore, when you look at Greenbush and some of the things we've left on the table around transit-oriented development, how to make innovative districts, where people can actually stay on the South Shore and work there. But I guess the only thing I would say is that we really do need to be investing in things like our transportation infrastructure to get people to work reliably. So it's not even just about how you get to and from, it's also around how you get within the district as well. So I would be looking forward to working with communities and the South Shore Chamber and the local chambers to start planning some of that investment.
Sure, yes. And one other thing, and people may not look at it as business, but I certainly do. Very recently, we had a meeting in Hingham with the zoning board and the shipyard, and the neighbors turned out by the hundreds because of a 40B development project. And what they wanted to do was put 250 units right next to a neighborhood, and basically it would devastate the neighborhood. And what they really were doing, in all honesty, is they were basically playing the system to make us bend over to basically allow them to put something in that didn't fit at all with the neighborhood. And I think that as a legislator, having affordable housing is something I've always been supportive of in my town and work with the trust. But in the end, someone's going to leverage the goodwill of our community to try to devastate it. I think in the legislature we can make some changes to make this thing work the way it was supposed to, because right now it's not working the way it's supposed to.
Thanks. Bob, first. As a coastal district, we're particularly vulnerable to climate change. As the state senator, how would you address this issue?
Well, and I've had discussions with folks along the South Shore on this issue already. So one of the things you need to look at is working with federal officials in terms of Congressman Keating and Lynch. This is a team effort. This is a collaborative effort. And I was actually having a conversation with folks before we came here. We're talking about renewable energy and alternate energy and solar energy. So I think we have to look at all these things because even though I'm not an expert in terms of weather and what happens with the climate, it's pretty clear that the experts are saying that it's related to some of the fuels we're using. So I would strongly advocate for finding locations where it would fit in terms of renewable energy, alternate energy, and solar energy.
Thanks, John.
I think this is actually the single most pressing issue that we face on the South Shore and as coastal communities, and that actually includes, Weymouth and Norwell, which is landlocked. Sea level rise, global warming, demand that we start investing not only in our foreshore protection, but also thinking about is our home safe, as well as our emergency safety and our emergency planning response, and investing now in those kinds of infrastructure. The flip side is the policy side. I think that we absolutely have to be working to shrink our carbon footprint, and that means investing in clean energy, renewable energies. And I think that that's an important piece that I actually would look forward to, if you should elect me as a senator, to work on. I think it is absolutely outrageous that we are now talking about a compressor station. Excuse me. Thank you. Sorry. Sorry.
Ellen, you're up.
That's okay. Hey, sorry, Carlos, I have a rebuttal, don't worry.
Okay, I think we're at 1 minute before Paul.
Thank you. Hope you're okay, Al. So just one other thing in terms of solar energy. Again, I was speaking to folks before the event. There's a proposal to put solar panels outside the transfer station in Hingham to gather more energy and for the with Hingham Light, working cooperatively with them. But also, as a legislator, we have a cap on what we can do with solar energy, the meter cap. And bottom line is that it's within our authority as a legislature to lift that cap or to raise it up, to allow more people to use energy, and not only for themselves, but also as an economic tool to support themselves in the community. So there are many things we can do, and I'm very ambitious and excited about doing it.
Great, and tell me if you can hear me. This question is for... Oh, I'm sorry. 1 minute to go.
That's all right. Just to finish what I was saying before, I think we absolutely have to fight the compressor station. We have set goals for ourselves to reduce our carbon footprint, and it is crazy to me that we would invest in infrastructure a pipeline for fracked gas right now that would come through our local neighborhood here in Weymouth, and then to be sold offshore to external, it's not even for our region. So to me, it is absolutely insane that we are doing that, and I am appalled that the Baker-Polito administration actually has approved a surcharge on all of our utility bills to fund it at a time when we need new revenues for things like our schools as well as for our transportation infrastructure. So I did just want to clarify that that was my position as well.
All right, I'll try to keep on track now. We started with the question with the gentleman answering first. There is a ballot initiative, the Fair Share Amendment, that places an additional tax of 4% on that portion of annual income in excess of $1 million. The tax revenue is slated for transportation and education. What is your position on this initiative?
So I obviously will be voting for it, but I don't think it does enough. I think we should be having an honest dialogue about a more progressive tax rate. We need revenues, we know this, and that initiative would start to raise additional revenues that we could invest in the things that we think are most important on the South Shore, but for the whole state. But it does not alleviate the burden on the taxpayers who are in the lower income brackets. And I think that we should be shifting off of the lower income brackets and shifting up to the higher income brackets. That's the millionaire tax that's going to be on the ballot initiative, I think. But I think we need to also think about it both ways, because that will then free up people's ability to save, to spend money, and to rise an economy. So I actually think we should be doing a little bit more around that, and I would hope that there would be some more dialogue around a more progressive tax rate.
Just for folks that don't know, the proposal is in essence, again, I could stand corrected, but it's a constitutional amendment where the initial request on the ballot will lead to two successive legislative sessions where approximately 51 votes are needed to send it forward. And I have committed to vote for that because I think the purest form of democracy is letting people vote for what they want. And any type of tax issue such as this is no better folks to weigh in on this for my constituents, so I would follow their lead.
Thank you. Okay.
Just quickly, I will tell you that the whole thing about raising revenues, it is appalling, I will say, with this whole compressor station that in terms of the governor, that they want to surcharge us for something that we're not going to benefit. Joan and I have been at a meetings in Weymouth on this issue, and all I can tell you is that to the extent that I could, as a legislator, as a senator, as a member of this district, I will fight as hard as I can to stop it.
The next question will start with Paul's response. The MBTA has been in the news lately for poor service, rate hikes, and infrastructure issues. What is your vision for rectifying the problem with the FT? Additionally, what is your opinion of the proposed rate increases?
And to answer this question completely could take a lot longer than 2 minutes, I would say. But I will tell you this, that the study, I've looked into it, and the commuters in our district have been paying a higher rate of increase per user than any of the other folks that use the T. I advocated and put a release out that I didn't want us to have any additional increases because we've already paying our fair share more than enough. Bottom line is that I'm totally opposed to the proposal. My sense is that we've already learned just from watching the TV and watching what's been going on. Millions of dollars are being wasted in the MBTA by some archaic system of setting up schedules. That's probably just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more we can do. The ratepayers are paying enough money as it is. We need to find alternative methods of eliminating waste and saving us some money, and also improving the services at the same time.
So I oppose the rate that they've increased. We did agree that we would do regular, small incremental increases in rate fares so that people could adapt to it over time. And I was very disappointed when the Secretary proposed almost a 10% increase that was completely contrary to what everyone understood that they were going to do, and they did it anyway because they could as a technical matter. I actually have a lot of experience writing legislation, so I promise that if I am your senator, I will be very careful and keep track on things like that. But I agree. I mean, the T is a complex issue. There's a lot of moving parts there. Well, let me just say, I think that the place that they should have started with was trying to attract ridership, and I think outsourcing and having privatization of things like the commuter rail are clearly not working, and that those are two things that we need to start tackling to begin with.
Thank you. Paul?
Sure, thank you. I would disagree with Joan just a little bit. And when you rely on government to in terms of the bureaucracy, to follow through with their word, and if we believe that they were going to give us small increases, well, we've been seeing this over so much time in so many different ways that they've increased the rates for the commuters and people in this district. So to agree to any other increases, I just couldn't do it. So I'm adamantly opposed to any increases. We're already well above and beyond what we should be paying. And with there's been no benefit in the services. You can see it day in and day out with minor glitches of snow. Otherwise, we're not getting any benefit from the T. I would support not paying another dime.
The only thing I guess I would add to that is I think some of the problems with the T are more complicated in terms of legacy debt and big debt and their past poor, we'll just say poor financial planning strategies. They've really put themselves into this hole. I actually represent the town of Hull on the MBTA advisory board, which is where all of the local municipalities have representation, because they also assess the towns, the cities and towns that have access to the T. So, from my part, the other strategy, I mean, I do think that the fiscal review board that the governor set up is a smart place to start in terms of some of the larger planning. But as its core, I think the other piece of it really comes down to, freeing up cash to invest in what is a crumbling infrastructure.
Thank you. Let's see, starting with Joan on this question. The fossil fuel industry has been claiming that natural gas is a bridge fuel to renewables for the past 40 years. Given the growing opposition to compressors and pipelines in Massachusetts, what do you see as the path to renewables in the Commonwealth?
Oh, I think that's such an interesting question right now. We have so many opportunities in our district. I'm so proud that I was a selectman in Hull when, the Hull Municipal Light Plant decided to try to put up the first wind turbine on the South Shore. And I supported every step of the way, and then the future projects for offshore wind as well. So I think that there are opportunities that each of our communities can make on the local level, as well as larger statewide and national-wide strategies. So I would work with every community to try to figure out whether it's the solar or whether it's wind, to see what we can do in each community and as a region to shrink our carbon footprint. I think that there are also some nice strategies. We've been talking a lot about, or the governor, I should say, has been proposing a lot about hydropower as a nice opportunity to transition off of some of the fossil fuels that we've been having. And, we should be mindful as we're decommissioning the Pilgrim power plants. So a lot of these things are coming offline. We have to start doing things like lifting the net metering cap and really starting to, support these kinds of industry growth. And what's wonderful about it is, as you were talking about earlier, about what are our opportunities for economic development, this is one that could really work out well for innovations on the South Shore, because these are all new burgeoning fields where there are opportunity. We have a highly educated workforce on the South Shore, so I also see these as economic development opportunities for our residents as well.
Paul?
So, and I think we've touched on it already in terms of climate change and the fossil fuel issue, but I think the Pilgrim plant closing is kind of a bellwether for us, and it can be ominous in one sense in terms of the employment issue that I know people are going to lose their jobs but it's also a great opportunity. I think the legislature has to take the lead and come up with creative ways to invest in alternate energy in terms of fossil and solar. And again, one of them, I think Joan mentioned it, but one of them I mentioned as well, is lifting that net metering cap. I mean, there's so many opportunities that we have. It is the future. We need to get on board, and I know that Massachusetts has always been a leader in these areas, and I would do whatever I could as a senator to make sure that this district is involved deeply in that.
Thank you. Joan?
The only other thing I'd like to mention under renewables, since we both touched on Pilgrim, is that I think the other thing that's important for our district is that our state senator fights to make sure that it is decommissioned safely. There are a lot of issues wrapped up in that, and I sat with some of the advocates down in Duxbury recently, and it's going to be a moving target. It is something we're going to have to come together as a region, and it's going to affect us both economically and public safety-wise as a region. So since we both mentioned that, I just wanted to add that piece to my answer on the renewables.
Thank you.
Just briefly, I mean, I've also talked to folks since the announcement, and especially in Marshfield and Duxbury areas. They're very concerned about what's going to happen down at the plant and how it's going to be decommissioned. So I think you need somebody who's going to be in the district, who's going to be able to be accessible and accountable. And I will tell you again that what I've been hearing through the district over the past 8 months that I've been campaigning is that the senator was not there, the senator was not accessible, the senator was not accountable. And they pleaded with me in Duxbury the other day, please don't forget it. So you have my guarantee, I'll be there every step of the way.
Thank you. We start with Paul on the next question. Individual towns have been working to create criminal justice reforms outside of any state legislation. Gloucester, for instance, has been in the news working with sending drug users to rehabilitation instead of charging them with drug crimes and incarcerating them. Would you, as a senator, build on the efforts of individual towns like Gloucester for criminal justice reform?
And that's a great question. I'll tell you, I'm a former prosecutor in Suffolk County, and as a member of the legislature, I initiated and had legislation passed that stiffened penalties for heroin traffickers back in the 90s. We know what the problem is here. We know what the devastation it can cause. I see it every day as an attorney in the courts. I see it in the communities, and some of it's hidden. But there's certainly that kind of proposal is going to be a model for almost every part of the Commonwealth. That's where we're going with this thing. You have to balance it. And I'll say one other thing. It's just so, in case you don't know, because it's something I'm proud of, is a month after I was elected selectman, I initiated the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition in Hingham. And what we're doing is trying to provide education and preventive measures and opportunities for treatment for people on the South Shore, because it is everywhere. It's an epidemic. And we're working with communities such as Hull, Cohasset, Norwell, Marshfield, and Scituate and Duxbury, all the towns in the district. It's something I believe very deeply in, and I'm very personally committed to. It'll be one of my priorities if and when I'm elected senator.
Thank you. Joan?
Oh, I agree. This is another issue that I think has hit our district hard, and it needs to be a top priority. I actually started as a criminal defense lawyer and as a civil rights lawyer, so I've seen it as well, and the havoc that it can cause in how it forces people into the criminal justice system. We absolutely need drug courts. We absolutely need diversion programs, but what it means is that we have to then invest in those things, because people need to be able to go someplace. They need to be able to get services. So it's going to take someone to advocate for things like building out the budget at the Department of Mental Health, funding beds for people who have either mental health or addiction issues, and funding some of those programs and the courts, because that's the next piece. You can't just say we're going to divert people and that we're going to decriminalize. We actually have to help create some of the programs to service them.
Thank you. Paul?
Sure. And I think it'd be important in this type of a topic to also address the issue of the legislation that just passed. The governor initiated and the legislature refined it and crafted a bill that will cut down on the opioid abundance. If there's one thing I've heard from people everywhere I go, is they cannot understand why these pills are being dispensed in the quantities they are. And for folks that don't know, it's your average person who is maybe taking medication for a sports injury or a work injury, who gets hooked on these things because they just throw them at you for long periods of time. And then what happens when they cut off the prescription? These good people they're addicted and they go to other sources. And I've seen people, families devastated, I've had friends, family members die, people that should never have been put in this position. So this is only the beginning of combating the problem, but it is a good start.
I would agree. I think that this is a complex problem and it requires coordination at the local, in the community, as well as at the State House and federally. And I actually applaud some of the initial legislative steps that have been taken, and and kudos to the police chiefs who are pushing that forward and see that it's a start. I would agree that they have taken the important first step towards destigmatizing the issue. And I think that's probably the single biggest thing that we can do is to make it okay, step forward, and ask for help. But then we have to be there with the strategy and the ability to help and the patience, because these things take time sometimes. It's a high recidivist rate, and we have to understand that it's not going to just go away, and that it is a complex, multiple-pronged approach.
You've been meeting people throughout the district. What have you learned or been surprised by?
That's such a great question. I'm going to answer it. I have been absolutely delighted to be out there and to meeting everyone in the district. You know, I was a selectman for a long time, 6 years, and since that time, I've continued to work with on a regional basis. Right, so through MAPC, through the Metropolitan Beaches, through the MBC Advisory Board. And so I actually have worked closely with pretty much all of the towns in our district. But to get out there campaigning and actually meet people and to hear about the big things, the small things, the fun things, the important, serious issues that everybody is working on, and to see how much people in our district love their community and engage in their own ways. It has been a lovely contrast to the unfortunate debacle that is the national political debates and teams and primary races. And so it's just been very reaffirming. I shouldn't be surprised by that at all, but it's been very reaffirming to meet people like yourselves who have come out on a night after work and to listen to us and to engage in the political process. And that civic engagement has actually been really wonderful, and it was really nice to hear it as we've embarked on our campaign. So kudos to all of you and everyone watching at home.
Well, thank you. Paul?
Sure. And there's been a lot of really good things that I've seen. I mean, I've been campaigning for 8 months, so I spent a lot of time with the folks in this room at numerous meetings and the town committees and the folks around the community. One of the things that I was, that I didn't know about, that I was, maybe a little bit surprised, is that, but it was a good thing in a way, is that we all kind of share the same concerns and the same struggles. Whether it's a small business, and I'm a small businessman, so I can relate to that. The struggles in terms of with regulation. I told you about the fishermen, how they're overregulated, how the problems they have. The issues with the families in the neighborhoods in terms of trying to make ends meet. I have two daughters, and one of them in college. The struggles that people have that way. Probably the biggest surprise, I'll tell you, is that consistently across the district, the people I talked to told me that their community was neglected by not having a strong senator there fighting for them, and that's what I'm going to change when I become the senator.
Jill, do you have anything else to add?
I think the other surprise that I had was how many of us are graying. The demographics in our district have changed, and since the time that I was a selectman, and I think that is going to make for some. I think we're going to have to adapt. I think we're going to have to get ahead of the changes. Our community, it has been great. And I think that's going to elevate some different issues than we're used to dealing with, not the least of which is seniors and affordable housing, and how we age, how we stay active in the workforce for a graying community.
You know, one of the things that is so great is I've been at different towns, and Hingham has what they call the Special Needs Athletic Partnership. It's a program where special needs kids for the first time in really most of their lives have been able to participate in sports activities and be welcome in there and not told that they don't fit. Well, there's many other communities that are doing that. And I'll tell you one quick story. Friday night we had a benefit that I had some party because I started because I'm Irish and I wanted to celebrate my heritage and also help these folks who are my neighbors and friends. Well, I heard the story of a young boy who was never allowed to participate in these programs. And when he got involved in this program, his mother was literally in tears because he said, am I going to get kicked out? And what happened was, not only was he welcome, not only did he flourish, not only did he enjoy himself, but at the end they gave him a trophy. And that night when he went home, he took that trophy to bed with him. And he was the happiest kid. And these are just one small steps. And these are things that I proudly participate in. And there's folks all across the district doing this. And I can't wait to work with them all at this center.
We'll start with Paul on this question. Equal marriage has been the law of the Commonwealth for 13 years. Now the issue has moved to give equal access to public accommodations to transgender people. What is your stance on this issue? Please back up your answer with an explanation of why this is your stance.
Do my best with an explanation, but I've been following the legislation that's been kind of percolating in the legislature, and obviously I think the majority of the legislators agree that something needs to be done, and I agree as well. My only concern is, and I guess I want to see what the final version of the bill is going to be, is there are people that have some serious concerns or legitimate concerns, and I want to balance that. I want to make sure we put together legislation that not only will benefit the needs of folks in the transgender community, but also protect the privacy of folks. And I think we can do that. We've solved so many problems in this Commonwealth before and accomplished so many things before. And we need to be able to put together some legislation that's going to overcome the governor's veto. So we have to be creative about it. And I think we have the right leadership with Senator President Rosenberg and Bob DeLeo, both of whom I worked with in the legislature when I served in the 90s. So one good thing is when I get in there, if I win in May, I will hit the ground running. You won't have to, there'll be no learning curve with me. And this issue, if it's percolating and it's coming up at this time, I'll be ready for it, and any other issues, including the budget. So I look forward to addressing that issue.
Thank you. Joan?
I support the transgender accommodation bill. I guess I would take a minor exception to what you're saying, though, Paul, because the bill is to protect the rights of transgender people. They're the people who are being discriminated against, and there is absolutely no concern in my mind whatsoever about any public safety or privacy issues. The fact of the matter is that it's there to protect their civil rights. It is creating a civil right for that group of people, and that is absolutely an important thing to do for their public safety, for their personal safety. They should feel free to be anywhere and everywhere that everyone is, and they should feel protected and safe, and they should feel like they belong, and they should feel welcome. So I would just caution that there's absolutely no concern in my mind whatsoever about protecting anybody else's rights. This is where they belong, and that's where they should be. And I would just caution the way you say it.
Thank you. Paul?
And I do appreciate that. I mean, the ultimate goal is to protect them. I have no disagreement with you there. But in terms of when I have constituents in the district and they have a contrary view of what you may have, I certainly am going to listen to them. I'm certainly going to respect their opinions, and I'm certainly going to do the research and vet it so that I make sure that everybody's comfortable. In the end, we get a bill that will pass and also pass the governor's veto if he does actually try to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's about educating people and about expectations and about understanding. And so I feel very strongly that the vulnerable population here that needs to be protected and whose civil rights need to be clearly articulated so that we can defend them is the transgender community. And I just want to make sure that we're all clear that that's what that bill is there for. And it's to make sure that everybody's rights are clear. I feel like that there's an educational component that goes along with that, certainly, so everyone understands what we're doing and why we're doing it, but, civil rights have to be upheld in every instance, and when we don't do that for one group of people, we risk finding that ourselves. It could be, there but for the grace of God, right? You never know. You have to live up for everyone's civil rights, regardless, because you're protecting your own.
Thank you. This next question starts with Joan. What is your opinion of the death penalty, and do you think it should be revised in Massachusetts?
No, I oppose the death penalty. I do not think it should be revised in Massachusetts. I've always felt that the court system should be honored, that is how we seek justice, and that is overstepping on the bounds of government. We've caught you, we've tried you, we've convicted you, we'll hold you in jail, you'll do your term, but I have never been a proponent of the death penalty.
Thank you, Paul.
Going back in time, when I was a prosecutor, and my opinion was a little bit different, but over time, and I say this not only as a personal view, but also as a legal view, is that I've seen that the system, which may be the best system in the world, is certainly not perfect. And I think the best advocacy against the death penalty are the folks that, through DNA and other evidence, have their convictions overturned. My opinion, in good conscience, because someone may be wrongly accused and convicted, I do not see the death penalty as an option. I think it's attractive in the sense that people, especially if you have a terrorist, being tried and convicted of certain crimes that are, heinous and appalling. But I think in the end, you have to take an overall view of this thing and look at the bigger picture. And our system has a penalty phase which is very severe for people that commit murder. But I, in essence, would not support the death penalty.
Thank you. Joan, do you have something to add?
No, I think the only thing I would say, in addition to that, my statement is that it's the dispassionate, even hand of justice, and that we should not let, passions prevail. That's why we have a judicial system. We are very fortunate in Massachusetts to have a tremendous judiciary. I have, in fact, practiced in other states, in Texas, where they're elected judges. So we are very lucky here in Massachusetts to have a high-quality, dedicated judiciary, and we have a wonderful, peer system through our jury system, and I think it's important to let justice prevail and to dispassionately look at the circumstances. So I oppose it.
Thank you, Paul.
I don't know.
This question will start with Paul. If elected, what committees would you serve on?
That's a good question. I actually, Ways and Means would be a great one. Something tells me I'm not going to get there right away. Over time. But in all honesty, I would obviously, Criminal Justice Committee, the Transportation Committee, anything to do with environmental issues, health issues, things that, education, things that I could sink my teeth into. But in reality is, I will limit myself by whatever committee I become involved in or I chair. I am the type of person that will be very much into issues involving my district, whether I'm the chairman or not. So, I'll take what the Senate President gives me, but I'll work hard to earn his respect and hopefully Ways and Means mention.
Thank you. Joan.
I would plan to sit with the Senate President to see, where I could contribute to the overall scheme of his plan and how to move things forward. But I think the ones that would be beneficial for our district would be along the lines of economic development or tourism. That would probably be a good committee for someone on the South Shore to be on. Certainly the renewable energy, I can never remember, it's like a complicated name, it's like global something, but around the environmental piece and renewable energy, that would be something I would personally be very interested in and making sure that I participated in. And then I was thinking the other thing would really be around transportation, because that is a huge issue for our district, and I just feel like we need to get in there and really start advocating for some of the resources to be invested in our district. When I look at this as the South Shore, I don't see mass development dollars coming in, that kind of thing, and that's what I really want to do on Beacon Hill.
Thank you. Paul?
Just a comment. I mean, I think, so folks at home understand, I think everybody wants tourism on the South Shore, but I would disagree to an extent with my colleague. I would disagree with Joan that certainly to me is not one of the most important priorities that I'm going to have as a senator. There's people struggling, there's seniors that can't make ends meet, there's housing issues, there's transportation issues, there's opiate addiction. I can tell you right now that someone else is going to handle tourism. It's not going to be me. I'm going to be fighting for the issues that people in the neighborhood are telling me about, in the district are telling me about, because that's what's important.
Thank you. Joan?
Oh, I actually disagree. I think bringing people down to the South Shore and getting them into our district is actually, most of the businesses that are down here now are what I would, Plymouth Plantation, which is quite in our district, but Scituate Harbor, I look at Cohasset Harbor, Duxbury Harbor, how we get people down there, and some of the existing businesses that are here. Congressman, now retired Congressman Delahunt, had a tremendous committee really looking at how to connect all of the communities in the South Shore and get people who come to Boston, out of Boston, to spend dollars here. We all put in the hotel tax and the meals tax, and that was why, was so that we could start trying to get people passing through our district. So it's not the only thing, and it wouldn't be my only priority, nor should it be yours if you're the one that's elected, but it is a significant one because we do have a lot of service industries. I think that would be a significant place that we could actually put some, that would fit into a lot of things we've been talking about throughout the evening.
Okay, thank you. I have one final question before we wrap up, and it is, we're starting with Joan. Why are you a Democrat?
That's a great question, actually. It was funny. When you pull your papers, you have to be registered as a Democrat if you're going to run a Democratic ballot. And I obviously registered quite a while ago, so I went to check and make sure. But yes, I have always been registered as a Democrat because I am progressive. I have been fighting for progressive causes for most of my career. I started out as a criminal defense attorney and a civil rights lawyer. And I ended up running a nonprofit. I'm a nonprofit executive of a public interest law center that promotes equal rights and opportunities for Massachusetts residents, and we look at it through systemic solutions to social justice issues, research, policy, innovation. So I've actually been fighting for progressive causes on Beacon Hill for quite a few years, and really working hard for our district. So I feel that the Democratic Party is the party that looks to make sure that all people are taken care of, and civil rights and some of the core values in terms of how we approach government, and looking at government as a place where we come together to accomplish shared missions, to accomplish shared objectives, whether that be education or transportation or job development. And I think it's that philosophy that has always attracted me to take care of the people in our community and really advocate for the resources we need to make for a bright future. And I feel that the Democratic Party shares that philosophy of government as being for working people, for regular people, and I would look to be an independent voice on Beacon Hill for the South Shore.
Thank you. Paul?
I think I'm going to differ with Joan in one, and I would think would be a major respect. I have been a Democrat all my voting life. I have never had to check to see what party I was affiliated, and I never will check to see what party I'm affiliated.
Touché.
My dad is a union man. My family are police and fire union folks. My friends are union people. I grew up in a union neighborhood. I will tell you this, that as a member of the Massachusetts State Legislature, some of my proudest moments were taking stands that supported working men and women. One quick story. I voted for the lockout bill. It was my bill. I sponsored it. It passed it. It took away it allowed people to get unemployment benefits while they were being locked out because they were being starved in submission. It was the gas workers in '93. Fast forward, I'm up on Beacon Hill the other day. I'm the only elected official. I'm the only candidate that went up, and I walked the line with those guys again. And when they came up to me and talked to me, and they told the younger guys about who I was, someone came up to me and said, if it wasn't for you, we would have lost everything. That's what it's all about for me, helping people and taking care of people. That's the way I was brought up.
Thank you.
The only thing I would remind you, Paul, is that we might be running as Democrats, but when we win, we represent everybody. And so, and I think that's been the problem that we've had in our district for a long time, is that we haven't had representation where our state senator has necessarily worked with everyone. And as a selectman, I spent 6 years as a selectman. Trust me, when you're talking about roads and schools and public safety, nobody's asking whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, and you need to be able to work both sides of the aisle to get things done. And the fact of the matter is that I am a progressive. I have been fighting for progressive causes for years, and that's what it's really all about.
Thank you, Paul.
Sure. And I understand that. Believe me, I do. And I have support across the aisles, and I'm very comfortable with that. But it's important to know who you are. And I've never had a question what party I was in. I never had a wonder whether I was a Democrat or not. To me, if you stand for being the Democratic values, the people that protected and stood up for working men and women, you should be proud of it. And so I'm not hiding that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to work with people. Of course I am. I'm going to work with small business people. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. I'm going to work with folks in the fishing industry. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent. It doesn't matter. I've never had to question who I was or what party I was affiliated with, and I never will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen, for standing in. Alice, I hope you feel better. I want to thank both of you for hosting us. I want to thank the caucus again. I want to thank everybody here. And I also want to thank Joan, because in the end, we are both Democrats. And there's a lot of things that we agree on. And in the end, Joan and I believe I speak for her, it's about unity. This is the first time in probably 20 years that we have an opportunity to take this seat back. So we need everybody to work together. So we may disagree on some issues that I would consider the minor necessarily, but that's up to you to decide. But in the end, you have to think about who has the best opportunity to take that seat back. And I believe it's me. I'm asking you to support me. And why do I think it's me? If you look at my credentials, if you look at my background, I'm a small business owner. I'm also an elected official. I've been a prosecutor. I've been a state representative. Not only did I talk the talk, but I've walked the walk over a number of years. I've been there. I've taken the tough votes to support union men and women. I've taken the tough votes to go against leadership when they were trying to take workers' comp benefits away from people. I'm the only one who's actually voted in the legislature to protect seniors, to put money towards local aid, to put money towards housing initiatives. I've done all those things. So we need somebody who's going to be able to win the election come May and possibly in the fall. I believe I have all the credentials. And one of the things you're going to see an elected official who's going to be very different from the senator who's been there before, because I'm going to be in the district. I'm not going to rely on casting a vote for folks and that being enough. I'm going to be out in the district meeting with the seniors, meeting with the veterans, meeting with the working people like the fishermen, and spending my time with elected officials. I've spent 8 months in the district forging relationships with all the state representatives. They have not had somebody on the other side of the aisle, so to speak, in the legislature, in the Senate, to work with for many, many years. We have very qualified representatives, and we have very qualified municipal folks. This is going to be a great time for Democrats because we're all going to be on the same page. We're all going to be working together. So regardless of what happens on April 12th, I pledge, and I know Jonas said we need to be together. So please, if you talk to folks in the neighborhood, in the district, ask them to come out and vote on April 12th. It's been an absolute pleasure to be campaigning. I marched in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Scituate. What a wonderful time. I'm seeing people I haven't seen in years. I'm making reconnecting of relationships, and I'm making new relationships, all to be able to work together for the better interests of the district. And I look forward to doing that with your support. Thank you very much.
So I'd just like to add my thanks to Alice and Ellen and to the South Shore Democratic Committee for organizing this very interesting question. I love that it's being videotaped and will be shared more broadly. I agree, we absolutely have to come together as Democrats, as a community, and vote. Civic engagement is absolutely, positively the single most important thing right now. That I think that it's shocking how few people actually in the past have taken the trouble to vote. But we're in the middle of a presidential primary, and I think it's incumbent upon us to get out there, whoever you vote for, and to come together as a party and to take back this seat and to start to work together as a community, as a region. And I think that's something we haven't had for a long time. I think we absolutely need to do that one way or the other. We need to bring resources and advocate for resources to be brought in, invested in our infrastructure, whether it's transportation, whether it's schools, whether it's public safety, foreshore protection, and really start to come together and make for a bright region. As a state senator, I would be your social justice advocate on Beacon Hill, an independent voice advocating for the South Shore. From my part, I think that we need to make the communities and the residences our priority. And I have had great experience writing legislation, advocating for social justice causes, regionalization. I'm on the board at MAPC. I'm doing Metropolitan Beaches Commission. These are all leadership, regional approaches that I have experience with. I think probably the single biggest challenge that we have right now has been indifference, and I think it shows in the lack of investment dollars that have been coming into our community. So I think it's terrific that my colleague Paul and I are both running, because it gets people talking within the party and within the communities about the issues and thinking about all the possibilities. I have been visiting with people throughout our district, and there's a lot of bright opportunities for us, and I think it's time for us to work together, to take a regional approach, and to really make for a bright future. So thank you very much for having me.